the citizens, if I may say, or the residents of the community. So there's a difference in terms of whether the East African Court of Justice can make a determination that affects the decisions made or the outcomes out of elections in a member country. That's one. Or it speaks to the broader issues of protecting rights. And so when it makes a declaration, it's more of declarations that seek to repair or give redress where rights are deemed to have been either threatened or abrogated from, or in certain ways not properly, declared. But in terms of it making a declaration that can reverse or can change a determination that has already been done through the election processes in the country, but again also have been determined by the courts in the country, and especially on an issue like the presidential election, where specific jurisdiction has been placed in a particular court, then it is very difficult for the East African Court of Justice. And when you look at its jurisdiction around election issues, to make a determination that directly affects the outcome.
And I think to add on that, I agree. I think we went to the same class with Bobby because we were classmates.
Yes.
You were taught the same constitutional law. There's a basic thing which we call that you must exhaust your local remedies. Therefore, for example, a member of parliament or a presidential candidate cannot run to that court. He must exhaust the avenues. So for you to exhaust avenues here as a member of parliament who is aggrieved, you have to go all the way to the Supreme Court, and that's a time frame. But then the jurisdiction of that court is completely removed from what we deal with in terms of electoral process. We have sufficient laws in this country to deal with the petitions, and they must end here.
Okay, very interesting. Mwana Hamisi, I understand that you want to take us somewhere else. Please do so.
Naam, naarifiwa kwamba tuende moja kwa moja hadi katika kaunti ya Kitui, manake matokeo rasmi tayari yameshawasilishwa. Na kufuatia matokeo hayo tunaarifiwa kwamba Julius Malombe ndiye ambaye amechaguliwa kuwa gavana wa kaunti ya Kitui. Irene Kasalu amechukua kiti cha mwakilishi wa kike na Enoch Wambua ndiye ambaye ataongoza kaunti hiyo katika wadhifa wa useneta.
And trusting the mantle for councilman, member of parliament on me. I want to promise the people of Kitui that I am going to work diligently to deliver my manifesto. I listen to them and I call on all my opponents. Siasa imeisha, sasa ni kufanya kazi. Na sitaki kuangalia kama tumeshindana, ilikuwa mchezo na mchezo imefanya nini? Imeisha.
I will serve everyone equally. In fact, I think I'll begin by going to the places where I do not get votes to understand what the issues are.
Na wasihi tushikane mkono ili tufanyie watu wa Kitui kazi. I'll be as inclusive as possible, even to those whom we are competing with.
All right, that's the decision, Kenya's choice in Makueni, or rather Kitui County. And of course, the first governor, Julius Malombe, makes a comeback, of course, after a 5-year break during which Charity Ngilu was the governor of Kitui. But in this election, yes, her name was on the ballot paper, but she withdrew from the race, saying that she was willing to step out of the race to have the other candidates go against each other, and of course that's the outcome from that area. Let's now cross over to the Bomas of Kenya for you to have a feel of what's going on there. Remember that just like an hour ago, one of Wafula Chebukati announced the changes that will guide the process of verification of the returns from the constituencies, indicating that constituency returning officers will be coming to the Bomas of Kenya. They will be received by the chairman himself, that is Wafula Chebukati, party as the returning officer of the presidential election, and after that they should proceed to the ICT desks to have their forms 34A from the polling stations verified against what was transmitted electronically, just to check if there's any variance in those documents, and whatever it is, then a report will be made. We will also want to show you images from Kasarani Stadium, where the county tallying center of the Nairobi City County is going on. It is expected that we should be having some results coming in from that area in as far as the county seats are concerned, the governorship, senate, as well as woman representative. And as soon as that happens, we'll be sure to take you there. But I'm still here in studio with Kakai Kisinja and Bobby Mkangi as we continue to talk about the processes that are just about to be undertaken. And I asked you a question of the processes that now Parliament must take, because yes, there are members of Parliament that have been elected. Very soon there will be the swearing in, but for them to have their very first sitting at a time that as of now the presidential election has not been determined, the swearing in is guided by law, and the president is supposed to address a new Parliament. How's processes looking like? If I may begin with you, Kakai.
I think going forward, the moment that IBC declares a member of Parliament to have been duly elected, then the law assumes rightly that you are a member of Parliament in awaiting. But remember, they are just elected, so they have not been sworn in. They have not taken oath of office yet. Because remember, at the same time, some of them could be facing election petitions and so forth and so on. You don't know what will happen. But in terms of the bureaucracy and procedure, is of course Parliament has its own timetable of how now the swearing in will take place, and that has to be convened with the executive in terms of the head of state. Whoever will then win, because he must go there, open the Parliament at the first time, then the members of Parliament are now take oath of office and sworn in. And we've seen this happen severally. Now, the specificity in terms of the time frames, I may not recollect the exact number of days that is supposed to take, but the procedure is basically that as it is. So everything will wait as of now until a president-elect has been elected, and after that a president is sworn in. Then everything else now will unfold behind that scenario.
What if there is a delay because there's a petition at the Supreme Court and maybe the election is nullified and there is ordered a repeat election? Then Parliament still has to.
We did that last time. You remember when we had this challenge, and if I remember very well, things were almost at standstill because things now take a central role in terms of the presidential. We put a lot of focus and emphasis on the presidential because that Parliament starts running functionally with the head of state being in office.
And of course, Bobby, it's important to note here that during that period, up until the president-elect is sworn into office and form the government, then there are those many gaps that will be, because if it's government's agenda in Parliament, it has to come from the executive. So how does that look like? Being in a transition year, how does it look like before Parliament can be moved by the executive agenda?
One, we must remember that the members of Parliament, or rather Parliament sort of stands prorogued as of now until the new Parliament is sworn in, so and that's why, for instance, if there were to be but until, as Kai was saying, and remember the people who have been elected take their oath of office, that's when the incumbent now officially become vacate offices. So right now, if say there was an emergency, a national emergency, for instance, where a state of emergency has to be invoked, or where Parliament has to sit and make the declaration, the country is probably facing an issue where we have to defend ourselves, go say to war, where again Parliament must be invoked. So the members of Parliament who are now leaving office, or some of them hopefully have retained office, will be convoked.
So it is Justin Muturi who would recall Parliament?
Yes.
Okay, very interesting. Yvonne?
And talking about what happens within Parliament and the National Assembly, Sam, you remember is what is actually announced. Parliament actually gives that right to the president. But can we talk about what happens within the executive? I mean, we're seeing things happening, obviously, but what are the issues around the powers of the executive and the powers of the presidency at a time like this? If, say, we go into a runoff, that means 30 days from the declaration. If to await a Supreme Court process, which is 14 days. If the Supreme Court then nullifies the election and we, have to wait another 60 days, because from the story that Sam did, it said that the president has limited powers. Are there any situations that would require restoration of those? Let's talk about a vacuum and how that is filled.
The president remains president until the next president is sworn in, and I think that's why you've seen many people even working out scenarios that some point to the fact that the incumbent could be in office until May next year, where they try to show scenarios where maybe there's a swearing in and then a runoff and then a swearing in, the conveyor belt goes on. So the incumbent president and the executive, and I think I've seen on social media, pictures, I hope they are to be trusted, of certain cabinet secretaries still very much on duty, so the executive and the president, remain in office until the next executive, in terms of the fact that the next president is the incoming president, and then the incoming president now can start forming his administration. So that is done to ensure that there is no vacuum at any given time.
But on that note, so the president is sworn in, gets his own people to approve by the National Assembly.
Not as such, and that's why you find that when a new president comes in, they very much and in a sort of expedited fashion have to come up with their administration, their cabinet, especially, and we've seen this even in 2013, where the first, say, batch of cabinet secretaries is sworn in immediately. But again, the cabinet secretaries also serve at the pleasure of the president. So if the incoming president will want to work with the team that have been there, and we see also the handing over processes. So up until the cabinet secretaries also take the reins of power, or of administration, let me not call it power, of administration, then they sustain the offices as are until they are replaced by the incoming or named cabinet secretaries, by the new executive. Yes.
Okay, hold that thought so that you take a short break, but you continue to interrogate that further, so that, because I think in 2013 rather, maybe you are not very keen on how that transition should happen. We will be back on Kenya's Choice in a short time to continue the conversations that are around transition, but also to take you back to the Bomas of Kenya on the processes that are being undertaken right there after the break.
Nyosha shilingi zaidi na zaidi. Sasa unapata ofa juu ya ofa ya kuwa 100% data bonus leo. Alafu piga star 544# au tembelea My Safaricom app kununua bundle na kupata target yako.
Enjoy boosted odds of the English Premier League, the French Ligue 1, the German Bundesliga, La Liga, Italian Serie A, and many top leagues only on Shambiki.com. Kuwa Shambiki. Play now. Strictly not for persons under the age of 18. Betting can be addictive. Play responsibly. Shambiki.com is authorized and regulated by the BCLB. License number 416.
Who's right there? Good news.
Meja, imagine nimeget ile loan ya Timiza.
What? Alan, uko na fresh juice, biashara plan. Tuko na Timiza no limit to make it happen. So you too can achieve your limitless potential. Jiwezeshe na Timiza.
Dial *848# sahi ama download the